Okay, Encore Shah Delight. Welcome to your show.
Thank you. That's me.
Thank you. Welcome all of you. Thank you for joining us for this debrief of Encore's conversation with Micah and Melvin. Actually, why don't you just say their full names?
Micah Lapidus and Melvin Miles.
Yeah. What? I think maybe it's worth pausing for a moment, acknowledging that this episode represents a pretty significant shift in the way this podcast is headed. Would you say that's true?
I don't know.
Or maybe every episode since we've begun is a pretty significant shift.
It's often like that. I mean, I kind of wish that every episode from here on out was going to start and end with a song.
Was a performance.
Yeah. And like perfectly interwoven between music and dialogue that were on the same message.
Yeah.
And that involved Martin Luther King.
And if somehow that message could be spirituality and like social movements of the last 100 years.
And loving your enemies. And yeah, that'd be so. I would like that. I don't think that's what's going to happen immediately, but yeah, that'd be great.
There was a line that really stuck with me through the entire conversation. Blossoming is awesome. I didn't know your name meant blossoming.
Yeah.
This whole time you've had some like kind of hang up about it because of that show in the 90s?
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I don't have that hang up anymore.
Well, not since Melvin disabused you of it.
Yeah, God, that was awesome. No, but you know, in high school or middle school, whatever it was, it's like, it's like a 15-year-old teenager
with a bunch of goofy hats.
Girl, you know?
I
was not a girl. So that was that thing. I've gotten over it. It's cool.
But I had no idea. It's so fitting for you, blossoming.
Why are you bringing this back up, man? This is like so traumatic.
Well, I sense there might be some trauma there. I wanted to dig in.
No, I'm totally over it.
I have a nose for these things.
Totally over it.
Yeah, sure you are. Well, awesome. It is awesome. Blossoming is awesome, and it's so fitting for you. And it's I thought it was actually really appropriate to kind of start the conversation there.
Yeah.
Man, there's so much to dig in. I think, part of my experience of listening to this episode was just I had to catch myself and step back and remember that I'm supposed to be making notes and have things to say about it. Because the tendency to just fall into becoming an audience member with this beautiful music was almost irresistible. Just to kind of just receive it without any kind of critical thinking activated at all. Which I imagine is part of the genius of kind of feeding your message to people in this way. This is really the beauty and the utility of music, huh?
Oh, yeah. Oh, totally.
So much more done. It's so disarming.
And just goes so much deeper into the psyche with the music. Yeah.
And if you were just standing in front, at some podium trying to preach this message to people, and it can cross so many boundaries in that way.
Yeah.
Well, I did find some things to nitpick, or at least to discuss.
Oh, good. Great. Always happy when somebody's ready to nitpick.
I thought Micah said something really interesting in the beginning. Maybe just worth, not nitpick, of course, but to just drill in a little bit. This idea, he says, our only hope is if we can control the platforms. Do you remember?
I thought that would flag your attention. Yeah.
Yeah, what a fucking paradox we're stuck in here. To control the platforms, on the surface, it's makes total sense, right? I think maybe just the sentiment of if you say this often, maybe this is the central mission of the whole 10,000 Heroes campaign, that if people with some alignment towards love, I think it was love and some love and understanding, maybe that he had said, but that this kind of essential virtuous alignment, somehow those people had the megaphones, which is not the case right now. These platforms are dominated by sort of fear and divisiveness and these type of things. But it does strike me as a paradox, because if we all kind of maybe sent out a poll to see who was sort of aligned with us, we know Mike and Melvin for sure would be there. Maybe a couple people we know, certainly some of our guests in the podcast. Okay, here we go. We're going to take over all the people that are dragging these platforms down, it seems like we find ourselves right back in some kind of rivalry situation where we have to kind of take down or fight this other group. And so that stuck with me. And, I was questioning, and it was sort of like just kind of in the background. But then as I hear Micah speak and share and his music, the message and what it really then kind of came full circle to me was, it was the second to last song, but the singing to the darkness.
Mm.
And Melvin says, we're bringing love to the darkness. And then all of a sudden, instead of this, this sort of binary of love and fear always kind of confounds me, where I can't quite land it when someone says, love versus fear. Because, I think sometimes you do love in the face of fear, and there's all kinds of complex situations that I think would go against that model. But then when Melvin said it's love to the darkness, so there's really an embracing here that's sort of central to what it seems like they're offering. Now I know you maybe you said that this would have set off my flags. You were aware of it, but did you have that same sense of kind of like a full circle there in the conversation? As he talks about, I can't remember the lines of the song, more just in him talking about it and sharing afterwards, how important that is to kind of sidestep just being sucked back into the same rivalrous stuff that got us here in the first place. There's love kind of sits in a place above all that, a place of unity, maybe. What do you think? I don't know. These are some thoughts that are on my mind.
I just think, thank you. That's a great message. Like, I don't think I need to add anything to that, but just maybe I can restate it. The whole point, and this is the metaphor, this is what we're doing in miniature and in big and in fractal with our whole lives, is we're thinking that things are opposed.
Yeah.
Like light versus darkness. But Melvin's like, oh yeah, the point is, like, without the darkness, we'd have nowhere to bring the love.
Yeah.
And when he said whatever he said, it hit me hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was like a resolve. It was always like the whole podcast, the whole episode was sort of this musical piece. And then that this maybe false dichotomy, or maybe I understood it as a sort of binary that was presented. It kind of created this minor tone. And right when he said that, it just resolved kind of into the tonic. Like it just, and it really brought it in and brought their whole mission sort of into light for me. What this, but it also, what struck me is like how hard it, even like for someone like me that, I think maybe I might be Micah's ideal audience, or maybe you are, or maybe me, you and Matt, or some combination of that. But I don't have far to go to just completely like surrender to what this man is saying. And still, there was some type of like, words just carry this trap of misunderstanding and kind of these like subtle binaries that are embedded. And somehow through this musical journey, through the conversation,
I really want people to hear what you're saying, so I'm going to sing it. Words just carry this trap of misunderstanding and subtle binaries. No, I think that's really true.
Yeah. Maybe we get Melvin to come back and surprise that. Not that wasn't good.
So it has to be sung like in a really like virtuosic musical way for it to actually work? Or could it just be any melody?
I'm glad you asked. I'm actually really glad you asked, because this was something else that was one of my stuck with me. So Melvin is fortunate enough to be a full-time artist, and maybe fortunate isn't the word, because he's obviously a very cultivated human being, and his craft is very evolved.
I mean, you're making a big assumption there. I didn't ask him about his side hustles. He might be like used car salesman.
Oh no, you absolutely did.
I did?
Yeah, it was a big point in the conversation.
God,
did you
remember?
Did you listen to this episode?
Did I listen to this episode? It's with the two musicians, right? The singer and the guitar.
It's a rabbi.
Oh, the rabbi
and a singer walk into a bar. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, maybe I did, but remind me, because I obviously have no idea.
Yeah, you asked him. You said, like, what? How do you, I think you were driving at this thing of like he has this mission in life, clearly doing this, and you said to him actually, I'm assuming you can't just sit around and make beautiful music all day. And he was like, no, that's exactly what I do. And
Wow. Okay. So I guess,
yes,
all right.
and
So
that's
you're right.
great, and
Yeah.
that's a minority of the
Right.
population
Yeah.
that have and we know how hard it is to learn music, how hard it is to learn any craft, and so it's not to take anything away from those people who've obviously worked very hard to sort of attain that. But then Micah comes in with this idea, which I've heard often. I think I believe it too, that everyone is an artist. That sort of
Mm.
artist is a birthright. Um, and so this sort of brought up another thing for me that I think we navigate a lot with in Momentum Lab, and um, we talk a lot about this. We think a lot about this. Is sort of, what do you do when you have to do a side hustle? Yeah, you have to have a day job. Might not be totally aligned with your purpose or your kind of aesthetic spirit, or your call to create. You got to just kind of create some marketing funnel and some sales video. You got to do sales calls and stuff like that. And so I thought this was an interesting point to stumble on here, whereas, Micah is an educator, right? He's a
Mhm.
teacher,
Yeah.
and he's also doing this thing as sort of like this musical thing, which is more seems like a ministry, or maybe ministry is the wrong word since he's a rabbi, but
No, I think you could use that word.
so yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm so ignorant when it comes to religious conventions. So this, I don't know. Talk to me about this, because I find myself like very confused, sometimes like conflicted, and sometimes in total despair about it. This idea that art is something we all have access to. Of course, we can only do it at a really high level when we've put in the hours and hours and years to develop that. But just starting from zero, we all have access to this sort of creativity. Maybe I'm making it more complex than it needs to be. Of course, everybody has hobbies and stuff. But in this conversation, you're always developing around purpose and alignment and mission. Um, I'll just ask you, like, how do you resolve these things for yourself? Sort of day-to-day, day job stuff, and what really makes your heart sing, which I assume is doing this podcast.
Mm-hmm. It is sometimes. So I just got off this interview with Ashanti Branch, who was a guy I met at a friend Pancho's house, this Friday night meditation thing in Fruitvale many years ago. I think I only met this guy twice. And I contacted him for the podcast interview a little while ago. We just had it just today, just before this call. And then I did a one-on-one with one of our clients afterwards. And she's like, "How you doing?" I was like, "I am totally high." I just had an incredibly powerful hour and a half long conversation that I don't think I'm going to edit a single word of, with this amazing human being.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, in classic Ankh style, I was like, "I need you to come visit me at my house and go on this men's hike that you and I are going to do next summer." And he was like, "Yeah," he's like totally into it. So yeah, if that is exactly what I want to do in a day, and it's going to be really beautiful interview for people to listen to, then it's like my artistic sense of what I want to do is totally aligned. And there's just what I think is the false dichotomy is this whole, and I grew up with this, is this whole thing that like the business and the making money can't have anything to do with the art. Because then I'm on these sales calls for our program, and I'm awesome at the sales calls.
You're particularly good.
Because I just see it as a conversation where I'm trying to understand what someone needs.
Yeah.
And I'm as happy to be like, "Oh, dude, what we're doing is totally not right for you. Like, you don't need this at all. You need X, Y, and Z, or you need nothing. Like, good luck, or maybe you can help me." As I'm being like, "Oh, this is going to work for you in this way." Because I actually just care about their needs and the person. And I love meeting new people and understanding them. Whereas I could do a sales call in a way that would be really stressful and maybe not authentic. And that's where, like, you know, all the things, the silly things we do for the business, like you got to send an email to somebody or this or that. It can be done either like with this creative upwelling coming through me and being like, oh yeah, I'm being myself. Or it can be done with this other thing of like, oh, this is not, it's blocked. It has to do with business and I hate business. You know, I think we have that opportunity and that option for all these different things. Like I can express myself creatively, even on like a call, you know, like a coaching call with someone. I could be myself. I could swear in the way that I like to swear. I could use the metaphors I like to use, or I could feel like I need to be in a box and not have access to those metaphors and that wisdom from my past, and I have to speak in some other way. And that would totally squash my creativity. And so it's not like in order to be, I don't know, we should ask Joe or Micah or something, but those people are just like musicians, you know, they're just playing music all the time. Music is going through their heads all the time. We should talk to Joe so Joe is a home health nurse and he's working, I don't know, 10-hour shifts as a home health nurse, like giving people injections and helping them, you know, with the colostomy, this and poop, it gets blood and toes and
pretty gnarly. Yeah.
And you know,
but then he gets off.
Yeah.
At whatever time.
Yeah. But he's listening to music every time he's driving from someone's house. He's like listening to songs the whole way.
Yeah.
I think he's talking about music to these people. He's also just like loving them in his way of like, he sees what he's doing. It's like it's like an incredibly mothering, like beautiful act of love with every person he sees. So there's like an art to it, even though it's not all music. It's still his, like, the way I know the way he's going and seeing those people. I mean, I remember, so when he was a hospice nurse before he does home health, he did hospice. So many people would like write about him in their wills or something because of just how much of an impact.
Sorry, but Ankur, could you just give our listener a little context? You just kind of mentioned Joe offhandedly. He was one of the guests on the podcast.
Yeah. So I don't know.
So maybe we could put
9 months ago.
Yeah, we could put a link to that episode in the show.
Sure. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So he's a musician, but he's got this like nursing career that it's just amazing the amount of impact he's able to make in hospice and home health through being totally himself. You know, so he's not like checking himself at the door. He sees this as part of his like ministry, is a really fantastic word. And I've got this other friend who's also a home or some kind of rehab nurse. His name is Jesse Gamazel. And he's just like an insane, I don't know, he's like a hilarious character. But he's like playing the trumpet in this like nursing home for people and singing with them, like he's just like, there's just no holds barred. He's doing everything he can to find that intersection of this is who I am at this moment, and this is what I can do for society. And let's have this like full on intersection to make it the most fun possible, rather than being like, God, I've got this shitty job.
Right.
Which the nurse next door might be doing.
Right. Or probably the majority of people in any job feel kind of buried in those constraints or somehow cut off. These were wonderful examples. And this was very satisfying. You answered my question. I didn't think you could. And I feel my power. I think Micah, he used the word integrated. He didn't use the word integral, but he was dancing around this. And I think that these examples really get to the point. Because you have this, you have Melvin, who's somebody that's achieved something in a domain of music, and it's his profession, it's his vocation, it's his occupation. It's kind of this perfect alignment, right? Up in, just perfect vertical alignment, right? He's called, he's doing that, he's competing in kind of a, pop sort of, whatever, The Voice or American Idol or something like that. What a great thing, and God bless him. And then, Micah jumps in there and talks about this integrated life, which I think speaks to the walk of your creativity and how you've sort of highlighted just now for us how it can really filter into all these domains you're exploring and bring your authenticity with you. And that's what I hear when I hear Micah saying this integrated experience of creativity.
Bring your authenticity with you.
Yeah. Just like
now, people will remember that forever.
forever.
Because it was a song.
Song. And they won't be able to argue with you, more importantly.
Right. There's no arguing with the song.
No, there's no arguing with your songs.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. Okay. Very cool, man. I think the other thing maybe to talk about, which another one of your beautiful lines, this gentle, kind, gentle slap in the face, I think it was.
No recollection.
You've lost it.
Yep.
So I think
maybe it's like I get into this.
You go into a zone.
Kind of
Certainly your
altered
video.
state.
Yeah, your video looked like it. You're just like this, and you're totally like in this, totally floating in this black void. The video is it's like in a closet with a spotlight on you or something. I meant to ask you about that, but maybe that was just that's the zone that you entered.
Yeah. No, actually, I was doing it in this room.
Just right there, but it just
wood paneling. But I don't know what happened. Yeah.
Well, let me refresh your memory because I listened to it probably a little more recently than you recorded it. But I think they just finished a song, and you gave the context that you had known Micah for maybe 25 years or something like that. Been singing songs with him all this time. And of course, you've been on your own musical journey for years. And something about Melvin's performance, maybe in the facility of it, the depth of it, just how it touched you. You referred to it as a loving, gentle slap in the face. And they both enjoyed that language. I think that might be the highest thing you can achieve, you know?
One thing these people get, these platform people, these social media people, the attention economy, is that attention is valuable. And that there's this really deep truth there. And that when an artist can do something that makes everybody, maybe everybody's just me, totally pay attention, that's that slap in the face. That's the highest, that's what it is, right? And so even when we did our live retreat a couple of weeks ago,
right,
and people are like, wow, that was a totally transformative experience.
Mm-hmm.
That's the highest compliment. And it means that like whatever you did made me pay attention and be with myself in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'm reading Terrence Real's book. Do you know Terry Real, the relationship therapist? Is a book called Us. I just started reading it. See if I could get some of my shit together. My relationship. Stop being such a regressed child all the time. So, one thing that I have a tendency toward, and you know this, we talked about it, is harshness. And I just get it. I think it's just cultural. I get it from, I know for a fact I get it from my father and my whole family on that side. We just have like a little cruelty. I don't know. It's just like our vibe, a little meanness, a little harshness. And Terry Real says in this book is that just like unequivocally, harshness has no value whatsoever. There's nothing that harshness can achieve that loving firmness can't do better. And so that's been been sticking with. I read that line a couple
would you like to
ago.
sing that so people never forget
No,
it?
I don't think I will, but I respect your invitation and I respectfully decline. But it just seems like such a heightened a level of humanity to be able to do something firm and pointed and forceful even, or powerful. It's like, where else can you do that besides art? And I think maybe this is the thing that Micah's driving at. What I receive from his performance and his sharing is that this path of creativity is really like so many things we've discussed on this show, is the expedient means, right? It's the gentle slap that can penetrate the guard, that can it just disarms, brings down the defenses, and you get to expose your authenticity to someone else's vulnerability. And maybe in that moment, in that interaction between the art and the viewer, the participant, the listener, there's this real potential for transformation in a way that's not available to us otherwise. Well, okay. Thank you for hanging out with us as we unpacked this episode. We really appreciate your very, very, very precious, valuable attention today. Thank you for taking the time to be with us.
Hi everyone, this is Martin San, your producer. I just want to take a minute to thank you for listening to our show. 10,000 Heroes is brought to you by the team at Momentum Lab. Pierre does our artwork, DJ Plainview composed our theme music, and I handle all the editing and production. If you like the show, please follow it, rate it, tell all your friends about it, and write to us. That really helps us make the impact we want to make. And now, we're closing this episode with a word from our main sponsor, who also happens to be our host. Anchor.
And now a message from our sponsor, me again. 10,000 Heroes is brought to you by Momentum Lab. I normally refer to Momentum Lab as a coaching program or a goal accelerator, but it's really more like a master's degree in life. When you join Momentum Lab, we help you get crystal clear on what it is you actually want, who you want to be, what you want to do, and how you want to contribute. And then we get into all the painful details of what has been blocking you this whole time. And then we give you the knowledge, the tools, and the support you need to get there. Sometimes that's a spreadsheet, sometimes it's a mindset hack, sometimes it's a lecture, and sometimes it's a hug. Our only attachment is to your higher self. So, when you're ready to be the next version of yourself, in your business, for your family, or just for your own sense of fulfillment, drop me a line. Bye!